Chasing the 20s is proudly partnered with these great companies. Railblazer. Think outside the box. Go to railblazer.com for all your kayak and boating needs. Achigan Brand, the official brand of Smallmouth Bass. Go to achiganbrand.com and check out all their apparel. Ken's Jigs. Check out Ken's Jigs on Facebook or call 570-850-9153. Kayak Cushion. It's a must for them long days on the water. Go to kayakcushion.com for all your comfort needs. Nikko Baits, the next generation of soft baits. Go to nikkobaits.com and check out all their products. Little Miami Outfitters Elite Rods. Go to littlemiamioutfitters.com and check out all their cool rods. Thanks for joining us tonight, and let's get into the show. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Carlisle. What's up, brother?
Not too much. Ready for the sweater of the break. It looks like it's going to be warm this coming week.
Yeah, thank goodness. We got a little preview there for a few days, but it chilled off again. But
super excited, man. I just I spent 5 hours yesterday and an hour today rigging up my new kayak. I wound up purchasing a Bonafide PWR 129, and what a fun boat to rig, man. I only had to drill one hole.
That's awesome. I knew it was made for that. So
yeah, and it was just a hole that I needed to drill for the release plate on the XI3 so I can stow it and deploy it from the seat. But yeah, other than that, welcome everybody to Chasing the 20s, Susquehanna River. We're really excited to have our next guest on here. I call him the Godfather of kayak fishing. I don't know what a lot of people call him, but he's been kayak fishing for a really long time and knows a lot about the Susquehanna River. So I couldn't think of a better guest to bring on for our show than the Godfather himself, Mr. Jeff Little. We'll bring him in and then we'll do our river. Jeff, nice to meet you, buddy. Welcome to Chasing the 20 Inchers.
Thanks for having me.
It's an honor. So Jeff, what we do, like we usually show the river levels here, the north, the west, and then around Harrisburg, and we also do Marietta. So we'll do that real quick, and we'll quick talk about what's going on with the river. So let's start off with Harrisburg. Harrisburg looks like it's on the rise, kind of leveling out. Right now it's at 6.86 feet. So I'm sure a lot of the ice melt had something to do with that.
Yeah, it's a huge watershed that you got to think of all the places that have had ice locked up and all of the snow on the ground within that enormous watershed that we had. I don't know. I'm not far from Gettysburg, and I think we had upper 50s a couple times last week. It might have touched 60. And
yeah,
I know it wasn't further up into the watershed, especially if you get up towards New York, it wasn't that warm, but it also was warm enough to melt a lot of stuff because it's not a rain event slug. That's a things melting slug.
Definitely. Yeah. I went across the 83 bridge just probably an hour ago, 2 hours ago, maybe. And it was open water. So at 83 in Harrisburg. So
yeah, I was up there last weekend at Blue Mountain Outfitters, and it was a big ice jam. There was a lot of ice yet up there, but I think this past week a lot of it melted. All right, so next we got Lewisburg. They're sitting at 7.10 feet, and looks like they're coming down a bit. They did go up yesterday, and then now they're starting to come back down. And that's the West Branch, Lewisburg. And then we have Marietta. Marietta's at 40.03 feet, and they're on the rise.
looks like all that's just making it down there.
Yeah. Yep. That's what's happening. Yep. And then Towanda, also they were on the rise, right? And then now it looks like they're coming back down. So that's pretty high level for Towanda, because they're always around a foot and a half, something like that. So yeah, excited for the ice to melt. Ready for springtime. I'm ready to feel a tug. What about you, Jeff?
Been feeling them. Not many, but yesterday I was out on the Juniata, and I think I ended with 6 smallmouth and a muskie. Three of them 19 or better. I got a 20 and a half pretty early in the day. And then, but it was one here, one there. It was, really, really slowly picking apart 150-yard stretch that was actually a place that I stumbled upon last March, I think later into March than where we're at now, and really had a really great afternoon, really about 2 hours in one particular spot. And that's what we got ahead of us, where, you get to the right spot, they're going to be stacked up and jacked up. And we can talk about it a little bit later as we're, talking about the ice out thing, the transition from late winter into early spring. But I took note of it. I'm like, yeah, I don't know where specifically around where I was last March, in that area. I'm like, there's a winter hole near here, because you don't have that concentration of fish without, they'll be grouped up. And the Juniata is sort of a mix of of traditional winter holes, and I think Juniata fish are actually pretty good at finding spots that are good for 2-3 fish instead of I think Susquehanna has places where it's 200-300 fish.
Wow.
But I made a mental note. I'm like, I'm going to go back and figure that out winter wise. And 2 weeks ago, I went and I caught one.
I think I just watched that video.
Yeah. The one where it was snowing.
But it was shallow, right?
No, that was a different spot. That was the week in between.
Okay.
Before yesterday, the last 2 trips, I caught one each day, one smallmouth each day, not counting the carp. And there was ice in different parts of the river in both of those cases. So we're low 30s, and then last week we had that warming, and it didn't set it off like gangbusters. It wasn't hot and heavy or anything, but I mean, I got 6 fish, 3 good ones, and I think if I had to guess, because I didn't bring electronics or didn't check it, because I don't know, it's just sort of a mental thing. Like, does it really matter? People catch them through the ice, how cold it was. But if I had to guess, I think we're probably in that 34, 35 degree water in the Juniata now. Whereas I think last week it was right there at freezing. Like the eddies last week were froze up. So
yeah,
which is the exact place you want to get at them, and you can't. So
yeah.
But
so for the people that are just joining in, we have Jeff Little here. We're talking about the ice out on the Susquehanna River. Before we get into all that stuff, Jeff, do you want to give us a little history on yourself? Where you're from, how long you've been, when you started kayak fishing, when you started fishing the Susquehanna River, stuff like that.
Sure. I grew up in Rockville, Maryland, in where we live is, I'd say before I had my driver's license, was a 7-mile bike ride to Swains Lock on the Upper Potomac. So my home water, as it were, is the Upper Potomac. And I think sometime right after college, I got involved with the Potomac River Smallmouth Club, which is it was a group that was sort of recreation, conservation, and just in recreation, just going out on trips. And I was the trip coordinator for them for a while, and then I was the president for a while. And that happened at the same time. I think in '98 was the first was when I started fishing out of a kayak, and I was the oddball back then fishing out of a kayak, and everyone else was in canoes, so we had to pair people up with, in twos. But if we had an odd number, I'm like, we're good, I'm coming, I'll be in my kayak, which worked out well there. But I think it was the Susquehanna. First trip to the Susquehanna was probably in 2000. I'd have to look back and look for sure, but and it was a Potomac River Smallmouth Club trip, and it was, we went to Riverfront, and we did some float trips, and someone brought their jet boat. I remember losing all sorts of crankbaits in those ledges before you get to Cove Creek, and it just it was that was my introduction to it. And I think later that summer I spent a lot of time in that City Island pool on a buddy's jet boat, throwing cotton cordell, like the little ones, and fire tiger. I don't know why they eat that there. They'll still eat that there real good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's the Potomac River Smallmouth Club really got me moving in the right directions in terms of this, always having a plan for next weekend and the next weekend, and where are we going to explore next, and we're going to see a different section of the Shenandoah, or we're going to go down and fish the Rappahannock, or we're going to go to the New, or for sure go up to the Juniata, or I don't know. We had lots of different fun exploration, and that continued beyond my involvement with the Potomac River Smallmouth Club, where it was just it was just my fun thing to do. Go fish a river that I haven't seen before, a section of river I've never seen before. It's kind of my favorite thing to do. So, and I get to do it now nationwide, because I've had a job in the industry. I worked for Torquedo for almost 7 years, and then Boondocks last year. And now I'm working with Snake River Manufacturing, which is kayak trailers out in Idaho, which is nice because it gets me closer to Dvorak. I know that cover page or whatever, for promoting this podcast, that fish was actually from Dvorak Reservoir. It was 7 pound 1 ounce. It was 22 3/8. But I get giant. That fish was pristine. Like our river fish always are scarred and missing, scales where they, just like broken jaw and just healed up, and they're just tough,
Yeah.
And that fish, there was nothing out of line on that thing. It was
crazy for it to grow that long and that big and not have anything.
Well, there's nothing to mess with them except for us. And
when I asked you to send me a photo for the thumbnail, my jaw almost broke when I seen the photo you sent, because it hit the ground just about. Yeah. That fish was beautiful.
But I get to travel a lot and fish different rivers, and the kayak always being with me to pull off, on the side of the road, and whether I'm in Kentucky or Michigan or Wisconsin or anywhere, I will peel off, and some random river up in Connecticut, and I'm just like, I don't think I'm gonna make it to that dealer before they close at 6. I might as well take 3 hours and fish that right there. And that doing it along the way helps a lot. But
that's cool.
I enjoy the exploration. But
yeah,
at some point I earned ACA certification as a paddling instructor and did kayak fishing classes for I think about 9 years on a bunch of different rivers, including the Susquehanna and Juniata. My favorite Susquehanna watershed course to do that on was Mapleton Depot to the blind camp, and not so much. I mean, the fishing's good there. I like fishing up there, but has the right elements of different current features, like big eddies that big creek mouth gravel dump eddies that like we can work on ferrying or peel outs or eddy turns, or in the right kind of rock gardens that aren't super aggressive to be able to teach these paddling skills to kayak anglers. And I did that, and that ended because I changed jobs and wasn't able to always say, yeah, I'll meet you, at Zweigert's and we're going to float to wherever on a Saturday, because my full-time job I'd have a cook call out. I ran kitchens in nursing homes. They'd call out and it'd be like, I have to call a student and be like, I'm not coming. I got to go cook. So that ended the in-person teaching, which I might get back into because I recently did recertified as a level 3 instructor. I might do the kayak fishing classes again. And in any case, at that point, I still had a lot to teach. So I started teaching the video camera, and I made DVDs, and that kind of rolled into a lot of the educational, the how-to stuff that I, included what I edited today from yesterday's trip, which goes on the Little Stuff YouTube channel. So
yeah, nice. So, do you still live in Maryland?
I do. Yeah, we're we're actually in the farmhouse that my wife grew up in. I think she's 5th generation here, and her kids are 6th. And it's a dairy farm. It dates back to 1912, but the house itself has evidence of being from the 1700s.
Yeah.
Like there's some architectural. There's actually one window in particular that's, I think it's 9 panes over 6 is a marker for 1700s era American architecture. So
yeah, I've seen some of your videos where your house was in the background.
Yeah, it's a nice place to live.
Yeah.
We raise some beef and do a lot of other crops, but I for sure married into the farming family, and it's a nice it's just a good life here in Carroll County, Maryland.
So how far of a drive is it for you to get up here?
I could be the City Island launch in like an hour and 20.
Oh, that's not bad.
Is the closest.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I've been running, like I said, up to the Juniata, and usually that's an hour and 40, hour and 45. It depends how far up I go. It could be 2 hours. I don't mind a 2-hour drive. Last year alone, I covered 53,000 miles for work. And when you drive that much, I don't know, you got to look at it differently. You can't hate it. You can't hate it. I look at it as the main event, and I enjoy driving through our beautiful country. I'm getting ready to Thursday. I will fly to Boise, pick up a trailer, actually 2 trailers, 2 kayak trailers from Snake River Manufacturing. They're made out there, and I'm taking them one to Alabama and then one to Virginia. The one to Virginia is actually going to the Virginia chapter for Heroes on the Water.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
A donation. So that's cool. But I'm looking forward to the drive. I know it sounds crazy, but like, oh cool, you get to drive for 3 hours, 3 days, and then drop off a trailer and then drive for another day and then drop off a trailer and then like maybe you only have an afternoon to get home. And then I will do laundry, eat some, kiss my wife, say hello to my kid, goodbye to my kid, and see you later, and drive back to Idaho to kind of do it again. And if you don't look at that in terms of, just enjoying looking around at our beautiful country, then you can't do it. And I do. I look at it. It's the main event. It is. And normally it's interspersed with going to shops like Blue Mountain Outfitters and popping in, and people that own kayak shops are generally really good people. Like they're people that you enjoy spending a few minutes with and asking them how their business is and seeing how you can help them continue to serve the kayak fishing community. So.
Yeah, awesome,
very cool.
So,
yeah,
do you have any like podcasts or anything like that that are your favorites that you like listen to when you're driving to pass time or when you're on a long trip like that?
I'm actually on the phone a good bit. I will listen to, and I listen to music, but for sure, Smalley Talk is on there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll listen to Alex Rudd. What's the one that Bailey?
Serious Angler.
Serious Angler,
yeah. I'll listen to that one.
Yeah, he's got a good podcast.
So, and then Josh Tranko turned me on to just one that he's like, you would enjoy it because it's filled with like random bits of knowledge, but it's just stuff you should know.
Nice.
Which is, I don't know. They do deep dives on all sorts of different topics, but it's the one that I listen to. It's not fishing related. So.
Got it.
So, the ice out. Let's talk a little bit about ice out here.
Sure.
People that have been watching your videos that you've been posting probably know what you do to find fish, but let's talk about what you do to find fish once the ice starts, melting off in the river. I know you do a lot of scouting and stuff like that, but
yeah.
what do you look for? Let's say, what do you look for?
I look for pools. I was catching them in November.
Well, they shouldn't be
far, the simplest way I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So if you back it out to it's transitioning into winter, and you have those water temperatures that are like mid and upper 40s, maybe lower 50s. For sure, by mid 40s, they've moved to the places that they're going to be, and that happens, middle of November. You can learn so much about where your concentrations of fish are going to be. I will say there are no absolutes. In fact, the video that went up today kind of had what I consider a really good generalization thrown right in my face, which was, and I even say it in a self-deprecating sort of way. Like I look at the camera and I say, okay, winter fishing, they should be in really deep, slow current areas with, and I describe actually what I fished yesterday, but this was the weekend before. Like, that's it, right? And the Giannotti is like, you sure about that? And I really got to see a whole area that had current. It had some current breaks, but it was not deep, and I could see them all there. And I only caught one, but it was like, wow, I see them all. And so there are exceptions to it, but generally, they're in the kind of places that when you have as much ice as we've had, and I don't know if anyone got to see it when it did break loose. It sounds like a train. Like it sounds like
a cannon.
It's just ridiculous.
I used to live a quarter mile from the river, and I could always hear it just from my yard. Just
you hear it groan, and then it roars for a while. And you think of how violent that is. I know I did a Instagram reel last weekend where in the background I had mountains of ice behind me, and some of them were like 8 or 9 inches thick, and they were jutting up 8 feet out of what should be the water level, and that had piled up there prior and then refroze. When all that breaks loose, it is a violent rock tumbling sort of thing, and there are places where a fish whose metabolism is so slow that they just can't move that fast, or I don't know, they get munched if they're in swift, shallow water areas. The pools that are basically absorb that sort of slug and have a place for that fish to step out of the way, or it's just it's so high volume, it's deep and wide, and maybe there's some big current blocking feature. That's a good thing. The other thing I like, if you have in the middle of that where a creek comes in, they can jump up in that creek mouth when it floods the ice out, and it doesn't have to be a big creek. In fact, it's almost better if it's not. If it's on a steep bank with a really canyon-like notch, and all that water comes down through there, and then they don't move far. And that's really what it amounts to, surviving the ice out flood and not moving very far, very fast. And if you have that, and I've actually fished the river in a friend's jet boat when it was at flood stage, and those creek mouths load up. They're in there getting out of the way of the ice out flood. So
kind of like the same thing when we have a high water incident. They like to get up in them creeks.
Yep.
Just like seeking safety, I guess.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty resilient, but I'll tell you what I observed last weekend, and mind you, I had to go to 2 different spots because the first area, all the eddies that I would have fished were iced over. Like there was open water, but like there was no productive water accessible because of the ice. So I went further up. I actually went up towards Raystown, and Raystown releases somewhere out of the middle. So that whole side of the Juniata on the south bank is free of ice, because what it's dumping out is like, I don't know what it is, but it isn't 32. It's warmer than 32.
Warmer water.
Yeah. It's not warm water, but it is more resistant to ice forming up. Anyways, I went up there, and like it was still cold, and there were a number of fish that I'm like, there you are, I see you. Now I'm going to take my jig and I'm going to cast up and just drag it and set it 2 inches in front of your nose, and just sit there and wait, and I'll watch you. And they just are not awake.
Yeah.
They're just unaware that it's there. They're just turned off. There are other times where you move into a pool and then you see like 7 of them move, and you're like, well, you're awake. You're catchable because you're already moving around. And maybe I've spooked you, or maybe you're already on the move. But even when they do that, normally in warmer temperatures, and I mean even like mid 40s, they're like, phew, these fish were like moving about like this, but they were moving, and they would go to a certain spot and get behind a log and just kind of sit there and hover, and they'd be there for 3 minutes, and then they would cruise over to some other part of the eddy. So everything's in slow motion.
Yep, for sure.
I think the last video I watched, the one where you were somewhat shallow, and you were actually almost purposely trying to spook them just to see,
it's
get them
called
to show themselves.
crash and learn.
Yeah.
That's usually a summertime deal. And I happen to notice, like, all right, I'm seeing fish. I'm not understanding why they're there. And I'm gonna purposefully just fly through here and try to spook fish to see more examples of where they are, what and put together. I was confused why they were in the kind of water they were in. I'm like, this is too shallow, too much current. But
when you do something like that, when you do the crash and learn, do you just make a mental note, or do you put a waypoint on your phone or something like that?
I did some waypoints 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But that was more of a, hey, when I, maybe next winter. I mean, I covered a lot of miles to get to that point where I started seeing fish. That I'll go directly there.
Yeah.
So
that's what I thought. Because I know, I think it was last year I was watching, I think it was you and Jake Harshman were out, and you were doing a lot of scouting. And then I seen you were talking about, like, this looks like it would be a good wintering spot. This would, this area looks like it would be a good wintering spot.
So
and then
I have here on the phone different saved things, and some of them are for work, and they're all the dealers across the entire US. And this one is labeled Susquehanna, even though it has like more Juniata stuff on it here of late. But like, you zoom in on that, and I'm gonna pick this one. See what the notes are. This says low water concentration of fish mid-November. Okay, that's important. That was noteworthy to drop a waypoint on. When I first started talking about, like, where are they? Well, they're right where you were catching them last mid-November. That's a winter hole, and they're catchable at that time. They're readily catchable, like 45 to 50 degree water. They're where they're going to winter. And they are catchable. So, but I will tell you though, what happens, I actually did a good illustration. I do Sharpie marker illustrations a lot on my videos, but I did one in the first DVD where I showed the progression through one particular winter hole that I know, of where these fish are located and where you catch them. And, you catch them in August and they're spread all over. They're actually mostly near whitewater and grass, to be honest. Those are the two, whitewater, moving water, and grass provide that oxygen that they need. And there's a lot of food there as well. So maybe the oxygen is for the things they eat as well. I don't know. They're spread out. As it cools off, they, say they're occupying an area this big in October, and then November, it's this big. But by the time it's December, it's here, but like, it's really only like this part of here. But there's a lot of them there, and there's probably 2 or 3 here.
Like a spot within a spot.
Yes, and that's actually the
terminology used, I think.
Yeah, it's the terminology. It's funny that you say it like that, because I just finished doing the the thumbnail for the one that'll come out
spot within a spot
next weekend.
Yeah. Perfect.
And that's really what what today was about, or yesterday was about. And I don't know that winter hole. I went to it 2 weeks ago, caught a fish. I went to it yesterday and I caught 6. I think if I go there in a week, it could be 16, it could be 60, depending on, but then if you go there in like the first week of April, you're back to catching like 6, which means they've gone from this concentration to they've gone. They've split, and the biggest ones move out first, and they go to where they're going to spawn. They move to spawning habitat, and right before they do that, there's this aggressive feeding at the heads and tails of those pools where they've wintered.
Nice.
Right. And I am speaking in these big generalities. I want to explain that they're not, I don't want to propagate fishing myths as absolutes, but like I'm telling you, the winter holes where you're best off spending a lot of your time because there is a concentration of fish. I'm talking in those terms. Yes, you can learn a section of river that other people would overlook and say, I don't think they're there, but of like 3 pockets in a 5-mile stretch where you're like, there's some here, there's some there, and then there's that one, but when you have that concentration, that good winter hole that's deep and wide and current protected in those high water events, as it warms up, they are moving around more, and they're going to move to current seams. They really moved up to the highest pocket of calm water in the most upstream portion of that swirling foam or still bank eddy type stuff connected to that larger pool, right? They also moved to the tails, and the tail hotspots are a little bit harder to find sometimes, but they move in the direction, like say the center mass of the winter hole is here, they'll move to the head and then the tail, and there's concentrations of feeding activity there, right? There's also other staging for moving in for the spawn locations, and the best ones are the creek mouths. The creek mouths load up with fish as we get later into spring, and they'll be good for a while, and then it gets to be a certain temperature, and then it's with each successive day lower and lower concentrations of fish. Well, it's because they're launching, they're running up, they're I don't care what tributary you want to talk about, they do it in all of them. You want to talk about Penn's Creek or Conner de Gwinnett or Sherman's Creek or I could just keep going. I'm not going to start naming the smaller ones, but just go looking for them. Go to creek mouths, find little ones, find small ones, because you'll be surprised. You're like, that's a little trickle. There's no way. Yeah, they might spawn right there in the creek mouth, but they move to it, and in the little bit larger ones, they're gonna for sure utilize that tributary as a spawning hub, which is good. It's how Mother Nature doesn't put all of her eggs in one basket. There'll be years where there's a lot more mid-river spawning sites out in the islands and behind the ledges and all that. And then there'll be years where there aren't as many fish there, but most of them went up into the creeks. And if you have a blowout river where those mid-river islands and ledge eddies, like you had a high water event, and all of that reproductive behavior that effort is lost just because the water came down and washed them all out.
All right. Well,
the tributaries carry the load, and it makes it so it's not a total loss of the year. So,
yeah. Well, we're going to take a 30-second commercial, and then we'll be back. And when we come back, we'll show some of the photos that people sent in, and then we'll get back on the topic.
Cool.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Got people that are watching. If you have any questions that you want to ask Jeff, don't be afraid. Get on there and put it in the comments, and we'll ask them questions.
Right now, we're going to do a little segment where we like to share our people, our river rats that fish the Susquehanna. We like to share their photos, and they send them in every podcast. So we're going to start off with Larry Akonsky with a really nice looking Susquehanna smallmouth. And I love that picture. That's a great picture with the contrast.
Yeah, that's cool.
The clouds and everything. And then we have Alex Goby. He seems to be catching some nice fish all the time. He's always sending some really nice fish in for pictures. And then we have Jake Hausman with a muskie. He always takes some really nice pictures too. Thanks, Jake, for sending that in. And then we have JP Poole. It looks like he may have been on vacation down south somewhere.
It does look a little warmer. Yeah.
And then we have Mike Reinhold with this is his fishing buddy. So he likes to go out and they catch some nice smallmouth together. So that's
very cool,
thanks,
Mike.
Thanks, Mike. And we have one more right here, Scotty Hepner. Looks like maybe a 16 and a half, 16 and 3/4 fatty. All right. Thanks, guys, for sending all them pictures in. We appreciate you guys. Every week, it's a great honor to show your pictures on our podcast. All right, so we'll get back to the Godfather, Jeff Little here. He's speaking to us about ice out and where to look for the smallmouth bass on the Susky or even on any river to that point that freezes over.
Jeff, I was curious a little bit about how you change up your presentation at all for that, or if you do, or do you still sticking with mostly like your jigs or your winter baits?
So I'm predominantly a jig fisherman through and through. Like that's my favorite way to catch them. There's just something about letting a bait sit and getting that singular dunk that just lights up something in my brain that makes me happy. That being said, yesterday I started out with the big blade chatterbait. It's nice if you can get them to chase, and there's certain days where it will happen in winter. But the big blade chatterbait is something that it's sort of the equivalent of throwing a slow rolling a spinnerbait with a huge Colorado blade. It's something that all that surface area slows it down. And I talked, earlier about how slowly those fish up on the Juniata in that super shallow clear water were moving, but it was like super slow, right? Your baits, if you're doing moving baits, they should be fairly slow, and that big blade, for sure slows it down. The jerk bait thing, it's I struggled with the jerk bait years ago, and I moved it too much, and the more and more I just slowed it down down to the point where like I'll anchor up the kayak, chuck it out there, and just let it hang off the back of the boat and sit there and suspend wherever, half a cast downstream from my boat is. And they'll blast it. If they're moving around looking, that will work. I've found that the best bait fish presentation in winter is, and it started with that jerk bait, one that we say, the suspending jerk bait, and it's kind of hard to find one that totally suspends, but I was always happier with one that's falling about this fast, and I'm just letting it hang there, and before too long it just gets to the bottom and just rests there with the diving bill on the and the rest of the body is sort of like can pivot. If the fish moves up on it, it just kind of does it has motion with the rush of the water coming off that fish coming in to check it out. What I like about the jerk bait is sometimes they don't blast it so hard, and there are 6 or 9 fine wire hooks, and we'll talk a little bit about the importance of fine wire hooks in winter fishing. They don't blast it like they do a jackhammer in the spring. They don't blast it. Yeah, I see what you got there. Yeah. It's they just will come up to it and go tunk, and that's it. And I've actually over many years, but for sure more in the last 3 or 4 years, realized that the better presentation or the better way to fish that suspending jerk bait on the bottom is not a hard bait at all. It is the soft bait that's rigged, on a jig head. One that I do is made with the Do It Molds SWM, but like a belly weighted, that sort of presentation. And I'll actually put them on, like you can put it on a Ned head, but it's a it's a bait fish profile, nose down, tail up, and they'll eat it. They'll eat it. It doesn't have to be in the middle of the water column.
That's what we were fishing last year, Sean. The scented jerk shad on
shads. Yep.
What was the bullet? Is it bullets? Something?
Yeah, the bullets is a good one. I make them with the Mustad grip pins that are a little bit bigger hook gap than the bullets. But the bullets, I've seen a lot of people shy away from the bullets because they're like, there's not enough hook gap. It's enough. It's a rare fish that I hook one of those and it gets off. But I don't know. Like I like my bigger hook gaps that I make them with, because I'll also I'll ski it in warmer temperatures. I will kind of just almost like slider fish and just swim it straight through the middle of the water column, where it's just passing through, like not much motion at all. That's pretty effective. I do a lot of different things with it, and to have that bigger hook gap with that sort of presentation is good. So you guys want to see a preview of the one I just edited, which is going to be next week's video, where we look at the lineup of different baits before I put in. This was yesterday morning.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get it queued up. And then I'll see if I can share.
You should be able to, I think. The wider gap hook that you're talking about, is that like, I remember seeing some that you like wire wrapped?
Yeah. Okay. It's that hook.
Okay.
So yeah, my Mac here is being slow. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me pause it, come back, and then there was something. Yeah, present. I'll do share screen, and no, that wasn't what I wanted to show. Well, this is it. This is the one I just put up. I want to change. Sorry, this isn't as smooth as I thought it would be.
I know while you're working on that, last year, one of the things you got me hooked on was the bat wings on the back of like a micro jig.
Which they discontinued.
Yeah. And so I was so disappointed with that. Although I think
there's still some around.
I was going to say, I've seen them around, and I have a stash from last year. So
yeah. Yeah. They made a nice green pumpkin with blue flake. There it is. That worked on the green one.
Mm-hmm. I think I was looking at something else that came out and thinking, that if you finagled it a little bit, it would look similar. forget which one it was, but
the I ended up taking the baby goat and cutting it in half, which is what I was trying to show you here. That
okay.
Here, let's try this one. Yeah, that was the audio for my intro. And like, I don't think StreamYard's gonna let me do it.
I can try and add it to the stage and see.
Like, I can see it on the bottom.
Yeah, here, let's bring it up. There we go.
Look at the big fish. Oh yeah, that's why we came here. Look at you. Look
That
at
was on
this
a black
gorgeous fish. Didn't take it real deep, but took it crisply. Pop.
I actually did bank fishing yesterday. It was so windy. Got out and sat on the bank.
Fish.
Oh, and there's your muskie.
Yeah. He hit a finesse jig.
Wow.
You would have thought he would have hit the chatterbait.
Yeah.
Pretty musky.
Nice.
Moved up in the eddy a little bit. And another solid fish. This is helping me figure out multiple bullseyes within this dartboard of this particular winter hole.
Was this yesterday?
Yeah, it was yesterday. See how it foamed?
He's almost at 20 3/4. So
That's something to look for.
first 20 plus of the season.
Oh, nice.
All right, and then I'm gonna scrub forward a little bit.
First
And
20 of the
we'll look
year.
at- yeah, we'll look at some baits.
I've been fishing the river now for about 5 years, and I still haven't caught a 20-incher.
Dry clothing and an easy way to start a fire. So I brought 4 rods this time. Let's go through what I got tied on. This one I think is going to get a lot of work. It's a black finesse jig.
Black always
I actually
works.
put the Z-Man trick shots. I cut it in half to keep it a very compact profile. For sure that wiggly paddle tail there that just catches the current is going to be the tail of a Mad Tom, or I don't know, some other critter down there. But
When it's in the water,
a mix of
it definitely
bucktail,
has a Mad Tom look to it.
silicone,
Gotcha.
and for sure some of those long round rubber. Not much. Sparse tie. I have 3 different materials. Diversity of motion.
And you tied that jig yourself?
Is
Yeah, I pour the
is
head,
good. Anyhow,
I
that's
paint 'em,
one.
put the bristle guard
I do
in,
of course have
tie
a
the
scented
hair, the silicone, and the
jerk shad. That's
round
the
rubber
smaller
on there.
one. And I have it on that.
And that's
That jig
this
head
bait is
sits
the
nose
one
down,
that kind of
tail up
replaced
with
this
a bristle
spinning
guard.
jerk bait in terms of
do you have
letting
the
it
big
get to the
blade
bottom and setting.
chatterbait tied with bucktail.
Gotcha.
I did fish that
Because you know,
that big
slow
blade
rolling isn't just for spinner baits.
chatterbait
It's also
yesterday,
for
and
I was going to
I
ask
had
you about
for
the
the
skirt
bladed
on that in
jigs,
the other
but
video I
have
saw
a
you through it, and
larger
it looked
blade,
more like a hair.
just like you
skirt
would with
than-
a
yeah, it's bucktail.
spinnerbait, a big
Okay.
Colorado blade.
I
on a
actually drive around during the
spinnerbait is
rut
for this
down here
cold
and like
water. You go big blade
get
with this
get
just
a
to slow it down,
pair of
give him a
loppers
chance
and
to chase it
get
down.
the red.
The last one,
roadkill
I'm kind of.
tails.
Gotcha.
I made this one recently. It's
That's a
another
good
finesse
sport,
jig, but I've taken the
Oh, there's the goats cut.
the
Yeah.
Z-Man baby goats. Kind of cut it in half. I forget which color that is. It's got the blue flake on the bottom, but it's brown on top. Okeechobee craw, maybe. I don't know. Same jig as the other one, just a different trailer, different color profile. It's good to have follow-up baits that are different in the same area, but for sure I'd tie these up with the bristle guards to keep them from getting snagged. I don't want to go in after these if I don't have to.
So how do I do the stop share? You got it. So yeah, I mean those are it's what I used yesterday, and basically bottom bouncers, if you have a really good idea of where they are and just letting them sit, keeping your line taut, and I'll add some scent, and if you're in those areas that have good concentrations of them, you're gonna, if you fish them in the winter, you're gonna know the center mass of it. But as it warms up, heads and tails. So
I know you like the baits with just a little bit of action. I forget what the term you use for it, but almost like the current is causing the motion. You're not imparting it.
Yeah. Anything that has a built-in sort of motion when a fish moves up on it. I was talking about a little bit with that jerk bait sitting on the bottom, but that round rubber especially is a really useful material. And if you don't want to tie and you want to incorporate round rubber, here's a fun way to do it, or a pretty low investment way of doing it. Buy the round rubber. You can get it from like Jan's Net Craft or Barlow's or any of these tackle crafting lure parts online. I think sells them, and it's cheap. It's super cheap. I would get black and I would get brown. And say you have a bait that's like a Mad Tom, right? And you want to add the whiskers on it, have that subtle little lift up, and just, or the same thing with a craw with the antenna that just are, if you ever watch a craw can be completely still, but its antenna are always moving. And that's what that round rubber does. You can buy it and it's in this kind of roll, and you pull a section out and it looks like a ribbon, and you cut it, but then you pull it apart and there are all these, little strands on each part that find a way to run it through your soft plastics. And I've seen people do it with like a crochet needle where they go through and they hook it and pull it through. I actually had one of my viewers for the YouTube channel said, hey, use a dosing needle. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he sent me a couple. But basically it's this, like a hypodermic needle, but like really big gauge without the chiseled, it's for like you're squirting something into like an animal's mouth or something. And basically you run that through the plastic, and then you can kind of feed the round rubber into it, because it's big enough that like the large round rubber, you can fit one strand in, you pull it out, and then it's incorporated into the bait. So you have the two ends, and you just kind of scooch it around.
I started doing that with a lot of my Ned rigs last year. Just taking a little, I forget what kind of needle it was. It just had a bigger eye on it that I could double over the skirt, pull it through, and then,
People are doing it. I know Russ Snyder's did at the Kayak Adventure Series finale in Kentucky. He did their where they do their brunch learning thing. He did something on how to make fuzzy dice.
Yeah.
And, I think that's what all
those are really expensive. Yeah.
There are people haven't figured out. I mean, you get Elastec, like I've made them with, any of the Elastec, the Z-Man Elastec that doesn't have the salt in it, like the Palmetto Bugs has the salt. The goats, I actually made, so not, it wasn't a fuzzy dice thing. It was a cicada thing, which I ran the round rubber through to be like cicada wings, and put a freaking treble hook on it, and just put two of those hooks there, and then whatever. When they're eating cicadas in the summer, like half of a black Z-Man goat, the body with like round rubber run through it is a cicada. I've done it a bunch of different ways. I used to actually make my own soft plastic that would float, and I'd use a lot of black dye, because the floating bubbles are like turn anything white, so you have to like keep dumping in black. But I used to do those and like tail hooking them with a octopus hook. But a lot of different ways to do creative buggy looking, all right, a carp fishing latch hook. Okay, I might have to. That's a good tip, Ken.
Yeah,
I don't think I know what that is. I'm gonna look it up. I mean, my dosing needle works, but carp fishing I want to see it.
Like I think the needle I use is made. It definitely has a larger eye on it, but with the Z-Man stuff, it works great because it kind of self heals around it when you pull it through, and
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just use a regular sewing needle, one of my wife's sewing needles, and I got them to go. I just put it in the eye, go right through.
Yep.
But I don't think I was using the right material. I was just using regular jig skirt stuff. It wasn't the round rubber, something else.
Round rubber special. It's way old school too. I mean, it used to be that was a much more common jig material. I like adding both silicone and round rubber and hair. So here's the other thing why I like to tie hair jigs. And this is a theory. I can't prove it. Everyone talks about throwing hair jigs in the winter, and what's often cited is, the hair just moves so easily in that cold water. I think that's BS. I look at what the hair does, and it's actually the part of what I create in that 3 different material, hair, round rubber, and silicone, that's moving the least once you stop it. What I think its advantage is that it represents a whole lot of surface area. And bass are suction feeders. They will say there's, something here on the bottom they want to eat, and they will come up onto it and turn on it, and they go, they open their mouth, and it shoots up in there. They suction feed. And I think when there's kind of a low weight, high surface area type material, which hair is that, there's nothing there.
It's going to vacuum up easy.
And I feel like with a hair jig, even pretty sparse like that, I feel those hits better.
It makes a lot of sense.
It's also the kind of bait that they go after. Like if it looks like a mad tom or a crayfish, I swear they hit it harder.
Yeah.
Than if it's a bait fish. But I think it's a mechanical thing. I think it is a mechanical advantage to have hair in terms of you're feeling the bite. Just a thought. It could be something totally different. I don't know, but they work. I mean, hair jigs work. And my thinking on this is that, like, if it helps you in winter, why, there's it's like people put them away once it's.
I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say, does that why is that only a winter thing? Why wouldn't people?
I don't know, but I have friends that win a lot of tournaments on these reservoirs down here in Maryland that throw hair all the time, all year long. Big old 1 ounce football with just bucktail and
yeah, Kayak Fishing Magazine, hairy fuzzy dice. Yep, that's what we're talking about, but homemade stuff.
Yeah.
So, you were talking earlier about gravel dumps. Now, I noticed they're a lot easier to find when there's ice on the river, because then you can actually see where the end of a gravel dump would be, because the ice actually doesn't form around the bottom of it, right?
I mean, the gravel dumps are always there unless it's really high. But basically, the concept of a creek mouth gravel dump in a lot of rivers that maybe don't have the kind of ledge structure that we have, I'm going to say, between Sunbury and Harrisburg. That place is unique. Like, having those 7 mountains or whatever it is creates a very and the characteristic of the river changes when you get above that, and there's more of a bowl shaped with like some islands but it's a smoother bottom river. It doesn't have those dynamic big rock features. And in the absence of those, for sure, bridge pilings are important, but then, you know, those creek mouth gravel dumps. And basically, I don't know if, did either of you see the reel I did when we were up at Towanda and it rained like crazy, and Hans Newts and I were at the mouth of a creek, and like it was flooding, and like logs and boulders were shooting out of it. Is this ringing a bell at all?
Yeah.
I mean, we could actually feel every 15 to 30 seconds, you could hear and feel like big rocks at this mouth, just, you know, and we're like right out in front of it, just kind of amazed by it. But that was a creek mouth gravel dump forming with a ridiculous amount of rain. What was that hurricane? Was it like Debbie or?
Yeah,
I
fished that tournament, and I know what you're saying. I heard the exact same thing where like probably with like 2 hours left in the tournament, I started hearing it, and that's when I was like, I'm getting off the water. This is not good.
Yeah, it was a crazy amount of rain, but it basically and it doesn't have to be a big creek to do it. It creates a wing dam, and you'll have an eddy on the downstream side and what I call a corner pocket on the upstream side. Those corner pockets are, you know, sometimes not always obvious to people, but there's a little eddy on the upstream side, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, those the creek mouth gravel dumps are good. And I was, like I said, just been on the Juniata, and there's a lot of them there, and some of them are massive. Some of them just create an island right there, and that's a whole different kind of situation. But even little ones, even ones with like, you look at the notch and you're fishing where it's high water, and you're like, there's nothing to slow down the current here. You find that notch, there's going to be a shallower area, and if you just get on even though you can't see the gravel out of the water, it only comes up to within, you know, 2 feet. They're going to be on that backside of that, even though you're in high water. So because there's that notch there. So
that's a lot of good information. There's a lot of spots like that people just cruise right over. They don't even know it's there.
Yep.
Probably. I know in the Juniata, I've seen a lot of those. Like, it's almost like a big drainage pipe. Like, there's a lot of those in a couple of the sections that I fished before too. That if water's coming out of it, a lot of times it does hold fish there too.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
And have you ever came across the people? I always hear people talk about them, warm water springs that come out from the bottom.
Yes. So the springs aren't. I don't think I've found any warm water springs, ones that have like actual heat.
But, well, no, I meant to say like.
But it's warmer than ambient.
Yeah, warmer than what the right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a handful of them. I'm gonna just say generally in the Shenandoah Valley that are that I go to routinely, because I'm like, everything else will freeze up, but I know that area is going to stay open because there's so many springs in that section of river. And occasionally I actually see the bubbles and see the, I think I stuck a camera down there once because I was like, there's all these fish here. Why? And I shoved my GoPro Dome camera down there, and I could actually see like it's a sandy bottom, and the sand was going, boom, boom, boom. It was like just jumping, and it was just water pushing up through it, making it just jump off the bottom a little bit and then settle back down and jump up, like tiny little 1 inch at most, little snow globes forming and collapsing. So,
wow.
But they like it. I think they like it because it's clean water. I think they like it. I don't know if its oxygenation level is anything different, but they, a lot of times they move to it. The other part of that though is that it will keep them more active than if there wasn't one, just because it's say it's coming out at, 51 degrees. That's something.
Yeah.
I just was watching, I think Ted, our river keeper, put a thing out about the warm water discharge from the power plant and them actually turning it off, and then they had a fish kill because of that. So
so that sends them into thermal shock. And I know back when I started kayak fishing, I would go to the Potomac, the Dickerson power plant. Back then it was Pepco. I think someone else owns it now, and it was a coal plant, and they actually created a whitewater paddling course, so like the Olympic paddlers could go there in winter and would be in 80-degree water paddling in February in this really cool whitewater course. We actually used to sneak in there when I was in high school, and we would scale the fence and just jump in and swim it. But in summer it's truly hot water. But even in like February and March, when that thing was running, it was 80 some degree water, and we would fish. There was always a lot of catfish right there, right below where it comes down. But if you go down a little bit further, there was, it kind of mixed in, and that's where you have the smallmouth, and for sure there was, some walleye and other fish there. But they don't let you do that anymore, or at least there's a law or a regulation, EPA regulation. I believe that's how it plays out, that you can't raise it more than 10 degrees. And the one at Bruner violates that constantly.
I thought so. Yeah.
I think at Bremo Bluff down on the James, Dickerson on the Potomac. I don't know where Peach Bottom is on that. I know last time I went to Peach Bottom, it was at the discharge, it was like, I think I checked, the regular temperature was like, 37. And then I checked in the discharge and it was like 39. And I'm like, why did I come here? But that 2 degree increase,
that's a big,
is it's within
the regulation,
like avoiding thermal pollution. And it's really set up there to not kill fish, and there's other negative impacts ecologically. So
there was probably fish there just from that 2 degree difference.
Yeah, I think that day I caught a largemouth. That was it. So, but
you ever fish down at the Marietta, like the deeper water in the wintertime? Like Long Level.
I know it. I know of it. And I know a lot of people that go to the very same specific spots. And I guess my preference is for sections further up from that. I'm going to say something that is going to sound a little bit snobbish, but I got over the idea of going to where everyone else goes.
Yeah,
a while ago, and I just talked about early in my kayak fishing in winter fishing career, Dickerson, which was that place where everyone goes, was a part of that, and it is good training wheels for having the confidence to go out, to go out in winter and know that you're going to have some level of success. And I'm kind of mixing up two different things with warm water discharge and a place like that. It doesn't have a warm water discharge, but big concentrations of fish. Same thing with Fort Hunter. I mean, I fished Fort Hunter quite a bit, but at some point I don't want to look at 3 other kayaks and 14 other jet boats and just pack in there. Like, they're there for a reason. There's a lot of fish there. And I've heard in recent years it's less good because of the flatheads that are all in there. but which I think push them out to other areas that are not as still water. But I don't know. I prefer to keep exploring and finding new places that maybe not everyone else knows about.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Especially if you stumble upon something that is, you know, you have a really, really good day and not many people know about it.
Yeah, I was going to say out of the way enough that it will stay that way, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Jeff, we're getting ready to be about an hour and 20 minutes here. We don't want to keep you up too much longer.
Yeah. So I don't mind. This is what I'm doing with my Sunday evening.
We appreciate you coming on. We got a bunch of people on now wanting to hear what you got to say. So what's your PB for the Susquehanna? For smallmouth?
At 610, I caught in the river bassin.
610. Did you get a measurement on that one or no?
I did, because it was a catch photo release tournament, but I can't even remember what it was. It wasn't my longest for that tournament. I know. What's up, Mike? I know that in that tournament, I think it was three of my best, my three longest, and Jed Plunkert's three longest. That was combined in the team total. I think we set the record for river bass and for that whole series with the team total. And it was early October 2015, and it was 123.75 inches.
Five fish.
That's five.
I mean, there was 20s that both of us caught that didn't help, that were not culls. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it was the perfect storm. Like it was, you know, I will tell you that 6 pound 10 ounce fish was not 6 pound 10 ounces 2 days prior. What had happened, it had been low and clear for an extended number of months, really low. And we had one of these hurricanes that turned into a tropical storm and came up our way and just rose all of our rivers. And there were people that in that tournament skunked and just struggled to catch anything. But if you know how to fish it when it's up, you can get in really great concentrations of fish. And Jed and I for sure did that. And I had fished a week prior and was not seeing these fish as fat as they were that day. So, I mean, I'm going to tell you that the Harrisburg gauge was, it was for sure was over 5. It might have been 6, like low 6s or something. And Mike's right. It was a freakish looking fish. It actually had a huge belly, but it had some part of the underside of the abdomen had been picked at or beat up at some point. Like it was missing a chunk out of its body that, like, it was a bizarre looking fish. But I'm trying to find a picture of it so I can pull it up here. But it was nice to catch it during a tournament. And but tournament aside, I'm like, I need to stop and go, like, set up the camera and actually get a decent shot of it. But so you see
where the belly,
see where my hand is. There's an indent there where it's missing flesh that should have been there.
Yeah, and, that would have been heavier.
Well, here's the thing. That thing, when I netted it and I reached in to put my thumb in its mouth, it ran into like a crayfish that nipped at me, and it had minnows like falling out of its mouth. So its mouth was crammed. Its belly, I've never caught such a tight, full bellied fish. And it still was trying to find room for a spinnerbait that was a 3/4 ounce head, a double skirt, on it, and then a 5.5 inch soft plastic swim bait as a trailer. So probably a 7-inch long target. And it was like more, greedy. Ugh.
That's like me. That's like me eating my wife's spaghetti dinner and then having a whole loaf of garlic bread afterwards.
Yeah, they don't know when to quit, but when there's good feeding opportunities of rising water, they do it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Was that fish a pound less? I bet it was a pound less.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't over 22.
Huh.
I know it wasn't over 22 inches because I remember. Yeah, I would have remembered if I broke 22 because at that time my biggest was or by length, my river fish that's the biggest by length is still a 22.5-inch Rappahannock fish. Nice. Caught in the middle of a drought. So yeah.
How long was the fish that you sent us for the thumbnail? The 771.
22 3/8.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So close to that Rappahannock fish, but like way bigger, way fatter than that Rappahannock fish. So nice. I'm so excited that I'm working for Snake River manufacturing because I will routinely be within driving distance of Dvorak Reservoir and be able to run up there and do more fishing. You know, I fished it with Brandon Waugh, he's a very good kayak angler in the Pacific Northwest. Their tournament trail up there. He's been Angler of the Year and really good stick. He actually hosted me and Jameson Redding a couple summers ago, or springs ago. We went up there and filmed Jameson's TV show, The Road Trip Angler. Yep. And we did a couple days on the Columbia, called Smallmouth up there on the Columbia River, which is an enormous river with massive barge traffic and huge amounts of water. And we were fishing these kind of backwater slough areas that they pull up into, and you know, and those are the spawning hubs for those fish, and lots of 18s, 19s, and 20s there. So that was a fun trip. But you know, it's very different looking out there, and I know those Dvorak fish are fed by kokanee, which are their little salmonid species. Like they look like almost like a little cutthroat trout. So lots of them that big.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I will head out on Thursday, go there, pick up a trailer, and drive. So,
are you going to be? I know last year you did fish the No Limit Power Hour. Are you going to be fishing any other tournaments this year? Kayak tournaments?
I don't know. I got a lot of work to do with working for a new company and expanding a dealer base, and you know, it's nice to have a job in the industry, but I will tell you, you will never work harder than if you get a job somehow in the industry of the sport, the thing that you love. And does that leave room for a couple tournaments? I don't know. Like I did the Kayak Adventure Series one up in Wisconsin. I teamed up with Josh Shrenko on the team thing for that, but I had filmed each one of those in some capacity or the other. I know the first one I filmed, it was the Shoalie Palooza. I followed Lance Coley for part of the day, or the first day. Got good footage of him catching a 20-inch Shoalie during that tournament. And I don't know, I've done others where I filmed the on-water stuff. I did that with their finale on I think that was the Green River. Well, it was whatever river you pick. I think we were on the Green in Kentucky, and you know, Ryan Parker winning that Angler of the Year with Steve Baker as his tournament partner, and they won Team of the Year. So the filming other people is I don't know, it's a big part of the YouTube channel, a lot of what you see there, because I may have learned a lot about river smallmouth or fishing in general or rigging kayaks or whatever, lots of different topics on there. But I can always learn from someone else. And there's no better way to learn than by chasing them with a video camera and not fishing and saying, okay, what are they doing? Like, you're studying another angler all day without the distraction of fishing yourself. Most people be like, that sounds horrible. That's not fun. Like watching someone else do the fun thing, but you learn things about what they do to be successful that maybe they don't even realize.
Yeah.
And when you take that footage and you go and you edit it and it's like a second time of reviewing it and digesting, what are they doing? And when you get to film, your Russ Snyders and Jody Queens and for sure Christine and so many really great anglers, saltwater anglers too, Brandon Barton and Matthew Van and even my buddy Gary Ward. Like, he's a hell of a stick. He's up in New Jersey and just really knows all the saltwater species up there. He's a good bass angler too. Striper fishing, with Mike Baker up in Maine. Like, I get the privilege of filming with so many really good sticks nationwide and having them take me to their A+ water. And that is it's a blessing. It's been a fun thing that started when I was with Torqeedo, continued the year that I was with Boondocks, and now it'll continue into, doing this job, with Snake River Manufacturing, and it's going to be fun. I'm really excited about working with Steve Carroll, who's a brilliant engineer. That he is a kayak angler. He's big on catching the sturgeon out there, and he's a bass angler too. So we're going to come up with things that make the transport, and in particular the river access, or access of any water, less frustrating, take less time, and I'll have your gear be more secure, and just that, all of those transportation and gear security solutions to make. The one big thing that we're going after is, and I'll have you guys chime in on this, how long does it take by the time from the moment you pull up with your vehicle to where you're going to launch to when you are in the water? How long is that?
Go ahead, Sean.
Oh man, if I can do it as quickly as possible, I'd say it's still a good 10 minutes.
10 minutes is phenomenal. If that's
for
really
me, it's
true.
30. I'm going to say at least 30 minutes.
I'm with you, Carlisle. It's 30. Like, you're putting the motor on.
That's true.
You're putting all your whatever battery you need for it. You're putting all your tackle on there. Take the black pack or whatever. I use the Lakewood boxes and put your tackle in there. Then go back, get your lunch, and you have your paddle, and you have to put that together and put it in its place. And for me, I use anchor wizards and anchors on both sides, and I don't transport with them because I don't want that thing to go cannonballing through someone's windshield. So they're stowed away somewhere, and I have to, there's just this procedure of assemble and then disassemble.
Yeah, my wife gets on me about it all the time.
And Sean, I'll
if
challenge
nobody
you.
Talks to you.
I will challenge you, Sean, to time yourself the next time. And I've done some research to figure out what are the solutions that people really want solved. And this is in a big list of things that people kayak anglers have said, this is what frustrates me. That's number 2. It's how long it takes from when you get there to when you get in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bigger answer than, we'll just float it off of the trailer.
Off the trailer, yeah.
That's part of it, but maybe we can bring part of the solution to the truck bed as well.
No, I was going to ask you about your anchors. I just watched a quick one you did on the double anchoring, and it didn't look like an Anchor Wizard that I have seen. Like, it looked different, and I was curious which brand it was, or is it?
So the anchors are,
or the crank.
The Scotty mount? Is it Scotty mount?
the cranks. All right, you're talking about the anchor booms. So there's different components. You have the winch, and they are for sure. I have two Anchor Wizards, and they're on the left and then the right, very close. I keep a knife on my PFD, so if one of them gets stuck, I can just pull that knife out and just cut it. Just abort, done. Don't want to be flipped because the anchor got stuck. But one goes to the front and the other one goes to the back. And I did a lot of double anchoring yesterday because the wind was so bad. And a lot of times, you know, I'm only using the rear and I'm facing downstream. So boat positioning is such a critical, you know, part of effective presentations. But the anchor boom is there so that when it runs out and just hangs over the water, that the anchor can go straight down and not hit the side of your boat, and not like come partway down and get stuck, and then you have to like pull on it and shake the boat, and then it goes the rest of the way. It just keeps all of that fluid. And the one that's on the back is a Scotty anchor lock with the cam removed. I took all the hardware apart for that, where it slides through and whatever. I made it work, and I've used those a lot. But I know Cameron with Anchor Wizard sent me the one that's on the front as a prototype to try out. So
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Sean, you should be picking up your boat soon, huh?
Yeah, Trey's. I have a Innovative Sportsman.
Oh, nice.
I've paid for it. Trey's told me the end of the month, hopefully. Well, that was end of February, so it should be done any minute now. So
very cool.
I'm super excited.
You'll enjoy the Osprey. It's going to go super shallow. You're going to have a lot of stability, and the other thing is how stealthy they are. And it's more than, you know, if you drop your pliers on that it eats that vibration instead of making this, you know, echoing boom, which is what happens with a hard boat. It's also hull slap. Like when it's windy out and there's hull slap on a hard boat is decidedly louder than one, you know, where just the inflatable just eats all that vibration. So you'll get a lot closer to fish, and you'll have a season of like, oh my God, there's a lot of fish here today. No, they're just letting you get closer. You know,
I'm looking forward to it.
Stealth, huge part of it. So you motoring it up?
Yep.
Is he motoring it up for you?
I bought the motor, but I'm gonna bring it down, and he's gonna help me hook it up, and foot control steering, which will be my first boat with foot control steering. So
cool. Yeah, if anyone's looking to get an Innovative Sportsman, yeah, he's in Mount Airy, Maryland, and he'll sell the motor too. So
yeah, yep.
Yeah, I designed the inflatable hulls, and then he actually does the frame, the seat, all of the different attachments for the motor. He came up with the foot control steering, like that goes into that track. It's a custom. You got a custom die made, and that is his extrusion, which is the frame, but it has tracks on all four sides. So it basically turns an inflatable into something that is as riggable, if not more so, than a rotomolded boat, because you have track everywhere. Having it framed out like that is for sure a nice way to do it. And yeah, Trey's a good dude, really smart. Came up with a really smart design on the seat. My suggestion, you can go high or low on the seat. My suggestion, what I'm happiest with, is where here's the front of the seat and here's the back. I like the front high and then the back low. And I think it's more comfortable to have your legs sort of uphill. You also have you can move your butt to the front, so your butt is higher when you go to stand up.
Okay.
So that's the position I'm happiest in. So, but yeah,
nice.
The inflatables are fun. The one I've been using the last year is still, I would consider still prototype. Trey's not totally sold on the idea of the Peregrine is what I called it, because it's the fast one. He's like, I don't think it's going to sell. I think it looks weird. I'm like, I don't care. It's fast.
Is it longer?
It is long. It's got a long tail, and that long tail gives you, I know with the Torpedo, I can get up to 7.6 miles per hour with that particular boat. Whereas, most boats stop at about 6.8. What that gives you, though, is, and I was tested on flat water. I actually always go to Lake Marburg and test there because it's deep enough and there's enough wind protected banks that I can usually go somewhere and not be impacted by wind. In any case, it isn't so much the flat water speed as it is, I want to be able to charge up through class 1. And sometimes I've done some class 2 rapids with that boat. When you have that long tongue in the back, it allows you to climb up that tongue of water to get to the top side and keep going. So
I noticed that on
me from getting out and dragging over stuff, because I can shoot up through there.
I wondered. I was thinking about that watching the video that you did just in the shallow where you're coming up through the bridge. I don't know what bridge that was, but it looked like it was shallow, rapid kind of through there, but you just went right up through it. And so that's another thing that I'm really looking forward to, because there's definitely sections where that I can't do that in my current boat. So
you'll I'd say the big eye opener for me is when I got the first prototype, and tested it out, and I actually ran to those ledges right above the Rockville Bridge to test it. I went with one of my sons, and I ran at a rock, and I didn't have it motored. I was just paddling it, but I ran to a rock that I would normally just wedge up onto, and then I can stay put and fish all the way around me. And I went towards it, and I just kept going. I'm like, how did I miss that? That's what you're used to with a rotomolded boat, which needs between 5 and 9 inches of clearance underneath. The inflatable is perfect for when it gets low and clear. You only need 2 1/8 before you start touching it. But even if it's a ledge or a log or something that is less than that, with the power of the motor or just even paddling really fast, as long as it's wet, you can usually jump it. So
nice.
Very, very.
You're gonna have some fun this year, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, it just, there's so many situations where I've ran into that where it seems like it's going to be perfect for the parts of the river that I fish regularly.
Yeah,
so.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I've had that particular one coming up on a year, and it's been, Wisconsin and Michigan and California and the Pacific Northwest, and it's been in water in Texas and all over the Southeast. And I'm trying to think if I think New England last year, I only bank fished. I didn't spend as much time up there, but yeah, the inflatables are special for sure for the rivers. So,
all right, well, you got anybody to shout out, Jeff? We're gonna wrap this up. We're going on about an hour and 40 minutes now, and
let folks know where they can find you. Hopefully, people are tuning in this long are probably the diehards, so they probably already are well versed. But just in case,
here's just the recommendation that I would make if you're looking to learn more of whatever it is that I have to teach. Go to the Little Stuff YouTube channel, and I'm going to show you how to navigate to the playlists.
I was going to say playlists are the key.
All right. So you go to the playlist, right? And is that showing up good? Oh, look, there's one for March.
Spring transitions.
Okay. So they're organized by month. So if you want to know the presentations and the patterns that are about to work, watch it for that month. When you get to the end of March, start looking at the April stuff and so on. So organizing it in that manner, you're going to have timely pattern information. You're going to get your mind thinking about what is about to happen before it happens, as opposed to you go out and you get 2 trips into a month. You're like, oh, I'm an idiot. Every year I forget to do this and I waste time. It's all there. So the little stuff, YouTube channel, playlist, go to the month, start watching some stuff, and you'll be better prepared for the patterns that are about to pop off. So other than that, shout outs. I mean, I'm lucky to have have employment with Snake River Manufacturing. We're going to be expanding, our dealerships to the East Coast, and that's going to be a fun thing. So you'll see a lot more of that in my content. For sure, Z-Man takes care of me. So does Yak Attack. Batson Enterprises is they manufacture rod components and actually sell something to basically every rod company in the United States, and a lot of custom guys. And if you're interested in the custom rod thing, that's a playlist on the YouTube channel as well. But Batson Enterprises with the rain shadow blanks are really super top notch. Great sensitivity and action. Pretty good lineup of the best stuff you can get to build your own custom. So I think that's about it.
All right.
Awesome. Well, if you ever start teaching on the water classes again, I know at least one person that will be attending that class. So
cool.
I can't speak for Carlisle, but I'm pretty sure he
absolutely
would too.
Absolutely.
Cool. You guys
there's one thing that I want to point out that I really love about watching his YouTube channel, because I'm a production supervisor in a box plant. Safety first. The last video I watched, he made sure he was by himself, and he made sure that he texted somebody where his location was.
So was Jake.
Jake's a good guy.
And the little stuff like that, and I just said the YouTube channel, but the little stuff like that is a big deal. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you for taking the time with us tonight and teaching everybody just about anything they could want to learn on kayak fishing.
Cool. Glad you guys had me on.
Appreciate you, Jeff.
Appreciate you, buddy.
See you guys.
All right. What a great guy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The amount of information. I hope to even come close someday to having that much fishing information in my brain. So
yeah, he's full of knowledge and very nice guy. So we had a bunch of people on, and I want to thank everybody for coming on and watching. Check out the little stuff. Don't forget to subscribe. Also check out Bronzeback Bassin. Give us a subscribe. And we will see you on the next Chasing the 20 Inchers. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget, for future shows, like, follow, share, and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you check out our individual channels and accounts too. Want to be a guest on one of our shows and talk of adventures, gear, or products? Contact us. Thank you for watching The Noob Show with Matt Gibson, Chasing the Tide with Dustin Nichols, The Rusty Hook with John Rapp, The River Run with Adam Fraser Pross, May Contain Fishing with Daniel Woodcock, Chasing the 20s with Carlisle Esterly and Sean Lavery, Friday Night Bites with Brian Schiller. Thanks for tuning into the Paddle and Fin Network. Subscribe and always wear your PF.